I'm Anil Kumar sharing with you a very important concept of input-output machine. We'll answer these three questions and take up some examples to understand the whole concept. What is input-output machine? How to select inputs? And how can we make a pattern rule? Well, in your books, you will see something like this. A box. You may say your first personal computer. So this is the kind of a machine which I would like to remember. Now here, it is a machine which you design, right? Where the machine can do some operations. So this machine can do some operations. We'll restrict ourselves to mathematics. We'll do some arithmetic operations like plus, minus, multiplication and division, right? So these are the operations which we are going to perform on what? Okay, whatever we feed in, that is called input. So we say on input. So input is something which is fed into this machine, right? So, and whatever we get out of it is called output. Now, so this machine is kind of a converter. So what you also see here is that we have a converter, right? So it converts. Input to output. How will that be converted? It really depends on your operations. It is your personal machine. Many of my students spend a lot of time during summer playing with this input-output machine. So basically, we can say that it is a machine which can change the inputs to give some other outputs, right? So it can change or modify inputs to give different outputs. But these different outputs are predictable. That is important, right? We know what the output could be. So these different outputs are predictable. So let me write the word predictable. How do we predict it? Well, it is your machine, right? So you provide logic. To predict output. Correct? Now, logic could be simple or it could be complicated. You could go as far as you want. So that leads to very interesting game, right? So this could be like a game. You can think like this. Game which you can play with friends. All summer. So that is what I would like you to do. So design your own machines. We'll see how we can make it more complicated, difficult for our friends, and play like a game. And in this game, you can actually understand the whole of arithmetic. Right? So we'll take up many machines here. The first machine which I'm designing here, let me say what my machine is going to do is going to double the numbers, that is times 2. That is double the number and then add 1. This is what my machine will do. Very complicated, right? But the machines are supposed to do complicated things. So let us say we design our machine which will double the number and add 1. That is the operation, right? So Let's get back to our series. We now understand what is input-output machine. Now let us see how to select inputs. To select inputs, we should take simple numbers. The idea is to understand concept, right? Do not complicate. Let's take numbers like 1, 2, 3 and so on, correct? Now let us see what happens when this number 1 goes through my machine, right? So let's see one by one. What happens? So as this number 1 goes through the machine as an input, it gets multiplied by 2, so it becomes 2, right? And then it gets added by 1, so 2 plus 1 is 3, and what you get output as 3, right? Perfect. Now, the next number is 2. It gets into the machine, times 2 is 4, then you add 1, and what do you get? 5. Let's say 3 is fed into the machine. 3 is doubled, you get 6 plus 1, what do you get? 7. And likewise, if I enter 10, then what happens? It will double to 20, then you have to add 1, and what you get here is 21. Do you see? So that becomes a game. You can ask your friend, if you enter 100, what should be the output? Right? So that is how it can be played. And this portion, what the machine is going to do, you can decide, and whatever you decide will be called a pattern rule. Do you see that? So this is basically a pattern rule. So in our case, what is the pattern rule? Double the number. Let me write like this number and then add 1. Do you see that? So that becomes the pattern rule for us. So I hope you understand and appreciate how we can work with such a machine. So that becomes my first input-output machine. You can design many and play with your friends, right? Now here are few questions based on whatever we learn. Have a good look. So basically, these questions will help you make your own machine, right? So here, we want you to make your machine. So I'll like you to make 3 machines here. So here is the first machine, second machine, and the third machine. And once you make your machine, that is to say, you have to define your rules, right? So the question is, for each input-output machine, choose 5 numbers to input, find each output number and complete the table. So let's first decide what machines. So I'll make simple machines. The first one, I'll say add, let's say a number 2, increase by 2. In the second machine, let us say we times it by 3. And in the third machine, let's do operation like times 3, take away 1, okay? So let us say that becomes our 3 different machines, okay? Now, your exercise here is to decide on the inputs and outputs for each, correct? You could decide different numbers on inputs and then calculate the outputs with this operation. So now the question I hope is clear. So let me write this as question 1. Question 1 is, for each input-output machine, let me call this as machine A, this is my machine B, this is my machine C. For each input-output machine, choose 5 numbers to input, any 5 numbers, right? So you may choose numbers like just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's okay. Then find each output number. So in this case, 1 plus 2 is what? 3. So you get 3 here. 2 plus 2 is what? 4. Do you see that? Like this you have to work and complete this table. So you can complete it now, right? The next one is times 3. So we could use easy numbers like 10, 20, 30, 40, right? And what is the output? 3 times 10 will be 30, 3 times 20 will be 60, 3 times 30 will be 90, 120, and so on, right? So that is how you could choose your numbers and play with it. Times 3 minus 1. When it comes to times 3, use simple numbers. Now these are good numbers to choose, right? Well, you could choose 0 also, right? So it says 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Well, if you multiply by 0, what do you get? 0. Minus 1 is the same number. Remember that. It's kind of complicated for some, but I hope it gives you a concept. 0 times anything is 0. And when you add or subtract, you get whatever there is. Right? Treat 0 as nothing. Okay. Times 3. 3 times 1 is 3. Take away 1 is 2. 3 times 2 is 6. Take away 1 is 5. So do this operation. Correct? Continue. Let's try to take numbers in a sequence first, so that we can actually also see the patterns. Correct? So once you choose your numbers, for example here, you see the input numbers have a pattern. They are going up by tens, right? The output numbers will go up by 10 times 3, which is 30. Do you see that? 60, 90, and so on. So now you need to complete the table. So you got to do this exercise, complete the table, and then move on to question number 2. Is that clear? Right? So I hope you've got the whole concept. Spend some time, copy whatever has been done on this page, and extend this to more numbers. Is that okay? You can go up to 10 for each. Here you can go up to 100, and here go up to 10. Is it okay? Go up to 10. Correct. Here is question number 2 for you. The question is, for each input-output machine, write pattern rules for the output numbers and the input numbers, right? So think that these are your 3 different input-output machines, okay? You have to write how we are converting these inputs to outputs, right? As far as the pattern rules are concerned, also write the rules for output numbers, that is, how is the output changing, and the input numbers, how is input changing. So these are simple. We have kept very simple for the first example. Both are increasing by 1, right? So in this case, we start at a number, increase by 1. So that suggests that you could have an input-output machine which is doing what? Can you tell me in the first case? That is what you have to figure out. So this is our machine, right? This is our input-output machine. And depending on this input-output pattern, you have to figure out what is the operation done by each input-output machine. Okay, so this is our machine A, this is machine B, this is machine C. You can pause the video here, copy this question, all the 3 different input-output patterns, and then tell me, for each input-output machine, what is the operation? What is the operation performed by machine, right? Operation of machine. Let me write machine as this. Is it okay? So in this case, what happens? 1 is fed, you get output as 5. So what is happening here? Well, we are increasing the number, right? 2 is fed, you get 6, you add 4. So in this case, the machine is adding 4 to each input to give you the output, correct? The second machine here, input is 1, output is 2. For 2, we get 4, for 3, we get 6, 4 is 8, 5 is 10. That means it is times 2. You are doubling each number. In this case, 1 gives you 3, 2 gives you 5, 3 gives you 7. That is tricky. How do we get that? Now this is the most difficult part here. We could actually answer this question looking into the pattern of output, right? Now we do have this part, write pattern rule for input numbers and also for output numbers. So we have to write pattern rules for output and input numbers. As you can see here, I have kept things simple. What is the pattern for input numbers? In each case, we start at 1, add 1 each time. Okay, but you will notice that output patterns are different. Perfect. You start at different numbers and they are increasing by different numbers. You have to figure that out. Now in this case, let me show you. We are increasing by just 1, right? So we add 1 here. And therefore, we know there is no multiplication. When you add 1, there is no multiplication. Correct? Just addition. So you find the difference between input and output. The difference is 5 take away 1 is 4. So you are adding 4 actually, right? So you have to write output patterns for machine A. And then you have to write output pattern for machine B. And then you have to write output pattern for machine C, correct? So output pattern here is start at 2 and then what do? This time you add by 2 and then 6 minus this is also 2 and then add by 2, right? So you are adding by 2. You're doubling the number. You are adding the number by 2, right? This is how the output goes. So you'll write here. Start at 2, add 2 each time. And what happens here? Well, in this case also, you say you are adding 2, correct? Output patterns are very similar in the last two. So we can write down the patterns here. For machine 1, the output is start at 5, add 1, right? For the second machine, it is start at 2, add 2, and for the third machine, the output pattern is start at 3 and then add 2 each time. Is it okay? So that answers this question. But now the major question here is, how do you decide what kind of operation machine does? So that is the critical question. Now this is the very critical question. We have already taken care of the first two. So the real question for you now is your test. Is right. The operation of machine C, right? Let me write like this. Operation performed by machine C. Correct? Now here, let me help you. Each number goes up by 2, so it should be times 2 as we did earlier. So let's do times 2. So if I do times 2, what is 1 times 2? 1 times 2 is 2, not 3. What is 2 times 2? 2 times 2 is 4, not 5. How do you get 5? You get 5 by performing second operation of adding 1. Right? So do times 2 add 1, then you get your answer. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11. Do you see that? So that is how you get your operation. Perfect. So if the numbers are going up by numbers like 2, 3, 4 and so on, we know the machine is doing times operation and adding or subtracting also. Perfect. Is that clear? So that is how you can actually also get operations of the machine. So I hope that brings you to good understanding about input-output machine. I'll provide you with link where I'll have 10 examples for you. Go through those examples and understand the whole concept. Feel free to write your comments and share your views. Based on your comments, I'll make the next video for you. And if you share and subscribe to my videos, that would be great. Thanks a lot and enjoy working with input-output machines. Thank you.